Woo! I can't believe I'm here doing this. The Game of the Year list 2014. I always freak out and dread this time of year because this is really hard. I play a lot of games every year and it's really hard to compile them down to a list of my favorites. But let's give it a shot. Now, as always, of course, if you guys have been around, you know how I do things. This, of course, is a list that isn't exactly ordered. It's a list of 10 games I really enjoyed. Maybe as I get towards the end, I like them a little bit more. But there's not really a total order because I'm not very good at numbering things. And of course, as you know, this list is completely my opinion. Now, keep in mind that, I have played a lot of games this year. I think I've played like almost every single main release game and a lot of indie games. So these are the games that I enjoyed the most. Let's get into it. The first game on my list is Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. You're going to see a lot of Nintendo on my list this year. I was very surprised. Super Smash Bros. Wii U is awesome because, honestly, it just brings back that fun of gaming. Hanging out and playing with your friends, all that stuff. But thankfully, the best part about Super Smash Bros. Wii U is that it is just another perfect sequel of a Smash game. It's fine-tuned, it's freaking beautiful, it's a lot of fun, there's a lot of added new content, and it's better and plays more like Melee than Brawl. And I just love Smash games in general, and this one holds up, so it earns a spot on my list. Next on my list, we have Titanfall. Yeah, remember that? Remember Titanfall? That came out this year. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Titanfall, ew, Jake. Titanfall has kind of gone the wayside. It was a bit of a fad. People don't really talk about it anymore. But when people played Titanfall, when I played Titanfall, I had the time of my fucking life. Titanfall to me was like the perfect game. It was absolutely beautiful. It was so fun to control and run around on foot and on mechs. It was action-packed. It was insane. It was fun to play with friends. It was a great game for Xbox One and PC, and I couldn't get enough of it. Titanfall has its shortcomings. There's not a lot of game modes. There's not a lot of maps. It's very simple. It's kind of a one-trick pony, but that one pony is fucking fun. So, Titanfall. The next game on my list, this is number 8 if you're counting, might also catch you by surprise, Hearthstone. Yeah, Hearthstone, the stupid little World of Warcraft card game, is so much fun. It kind of couples in perfectly with my Game of the Year philosophy. Every year when I try and make a list, I try to also keep into account how many games I've played on mobile and how much time and how much fun I've spent playing those. And Hearthstone on iPad, I have played an insane amount of time on and spent a lot of money on, and it's definitely worth checking out if you've never played it. It's now on Android tablets and PC as well. At first, I didn't really get into the hype when it was out on PC, but then when I got it on my iPad, I had so much fun. It's a free-to-play card game. Card games, which I don't really like. Digital card games, I never liked that stuff. But Hearthstone, for some reason, just makes it awesome. And I love it. And I can't stop playing it. And thankfully, the free-to-play is awesome. And if you do actually feel like spending money, which I did actually end up getting convinced to spend money, you feel like you actually spent money. You didn't just spend it on points or garbage. This is the real deal, and it's a lot of fun. So I highly recommend checking out Hearthstone. Job's done. The next game on my list is a cute little action, roguelike, indie, platformer, old school type game, Shovel Knight. You've probably heard a lot about this, or maybe you haven't heard about it at all. Shovel Knight is a lot of fun. It has a unique look, it's so quirky, and it's an absolute blast to play, and you can put a ton of hours into it. Thankfully, it's now available for all the major consoles after a Kickstarter launch. Shovel Knight is a ton of old school fun mixed with some new generation concepts and is definitely going to be worth your time. Check it out. Next on my list, this was kind of a good year for Xbox. I mean, maybe not for the Master Chief Collection, but Sunset Overdrive. Sunset Overdrive was awesome. Sunset Overdrive kind of like brought the fun back into things. It just is a really nice concept that once you really play and get into it, it blows up and you'll love it. Now with Sunset Overdrive, I had a little bit of a problem with it. At first, I just didn't get it. I was like, yeah, this is cool, I guess, but it's just not doing it for me. Put a couple hours into it. Practice. The actual mobility and traversal in the game, you grind around kind of like Jet Set Radio, Tony Hawk. That takes practice, but once you click, once you get it, it's so much fun. And this game, I played it for hours. I love it. It has a great soundtrack. It has a killer look on the Xbox One, customizable characters. The multiplayer is pretty cool. Everything is there. It's an awesome package. It's a fun game to play, and Insomniac really hit it out of the park with this one. Number 5 on my list, I guess if you're counting, is Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2, I love everything about Bayonetta 2. I love butts, I love boobs, I love really great gameplay, I love anime bullshit, and Bayonetta 2 takes the cake. Bayonetta is a strong and badass cool character, and she is so much fun to control with customizable weapons on her hands and her feet. There are so many wide gameplay varieties here. And the story is completely nonsense and you won't care about it at all, but the action set pieces are like jaw-dropping. It's so much fun to play, and I can't stress how awesome and ridiculous this game is. It's kind of like if Devil May Cry took heroin and mushrooms at the same time. because it's crazy. It's so crazy. I love it so much. Bayonetta 2 is a really memorable experience that kind of drags in the middle, but the fact that I just keep coming up with these crazy moments in the game in my head means that it deserves a spot on my list because it was a hell of a game. The next game on my list, I keep saying that, the next game on my list, really though, is Telltale's Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is Telltale's take on the Fables graphic novel series, which I also enjoyed. I didn't read all of them, but I enjoyed it. And it really takes it to an awesome, new, realized, conceptualized, real level. The Wolf Among Us is awesome, and I really honestly love it more than The Walking Dead Season 2. It is so interesting with characters that I absolutely fell in love with, a visual style that is just so cool, a world that is just amazing that, you know, you can get more in the graphic novels if you want. It's just, I couldn't get enough of it, and when it ended, I was like, damn, it really felt like watching a TV series because I was like, shit, I want to see what happens next. Unfortunately, unlike Telltale's other games, The Wolf Among Us kind of ends on a note. The last episode was a little meh. The ending was, you know, left a lot to be desired, but the journey getting there is so awesome, and that's why I highly recommend playing The Wolf Among Us if you haven't already. Big B Wolf, the main character, is a fucking badass. He's like Solid Snake if he was a werewolf, man. So definitely game of the year. Boom. We're down to the final three, so let's get into it with Mario Kart 8. Mario Kart 8, like I said about Super Smash Bros., kind of brought the fun of couch co-op gaming back to me. I really think Mario Kart 8 on my list ranks as one of the most played games, the most hours logged this year for the games that I've played. I have had so many Mario Kart 8 parties where I just got together with my friends and family and just had a fucking blast because the game is just so good. Of course, yes, you can argue that it doesn't add much to the formula. It doesn't really change things up. It's Nintendo just rehashing the same fucking games they've been making forever. But I don't care. It's fun, and I love it. I don't get cynical about things like that. I just like games, and unless it feels stale, it doesn't. So I'm all for it. And Mario Kart 8 is awesome. I really love a lot of the courses. The gameplay looks absolutely beautiful. 60 frames per second, 1080p, crisp and bright and colorful as hell. It's amazing to watch replays in. Overall, it is just such a fun package that I can't recommend enough if you're going to play with friends. If you're just going to play it alone, not so much. But if you're going to sit on the couch, play with some friends, or race someone online, definitely worth it. It's so good. I can't recommend Mario Kart 8 enough because I play it so much. That's just what it boils down to. Number 2 on my list is Wolfenstein: The New Order. Wolfenstein has always been on my radar. I've been playing these games since Return to Castle Wolfenstein. And Wolfenstein: The New Order is honestly the best in the series. They're all radically different, of course, but this game is so great. It's a single player only experience, which does hurt it a little bit. I would have liked to have played a little classic multiplayer, but the single player experience is so awesome with characters that at first look really two-dimensional, but turn out to be pretty deep, with a story that's pretty convincing. In a world occupied by a victorious Nazi Germany that is actually somewhat believable, but also still stylistic and cool. This game has so much style, so much confidence, it knows what it's doing, it knows how to impress. The action is crazy, the gore is crazy, the story is interesting, and I just loved it so much. And it plays absolutely freaking wonderfully. Dual wielding is awesome, everything is so much fun, and it's really challenging, which is something I didn't expect. It definitely brings back that old school first-person challenge that you played on PC. You know what I mean? It's just damn good. It doesn't really do anything new, but the package that it's in, it's really just the best of everything of this gaming generation. It's just perfect. Oh, it's just such a good shooter. I can't. And last but certainly not least is one of the games I enjoyed the most this year, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. Yes, a Lord of the Rings game is at the top of my list for games I love the most this year. If you haven't heard already, or if you haven't read all the reviews or seen my review, first of all, why didn't you see my review? What the fuck are you doing? Shadows of Mordor is a full package of a fun game combined with the Batman Arkham style fighting gameplay with the traversal and parkour and open worldness of Assassin's Creed. And it's so good. Oh my god. Everything about this game is just perfect. It's a bit streamlined and simple, but that just makes it feel so good. And the raw violence and anger that you feel through the controller playing as the main character is just something that I will never forget. And not only that, but the Nemesis system, the system in the game that keeps track of your rivals and who you beat in battle so they can come back stronger with a scar on their face to kick your ass. It's just so cool. And that alone, that system in the game can let you play for hours. Fuck the main story. The main story actually kind of sucked, but playing the game is just so good, and I can't stress that enough. It is so much fun. Talion is a cool character. Of course, they didn't really do too much with him in the story, but he's cool. The stealth is great. The killing is great. The combat is great. The traversal is great. The world to explore is okay. The world's a little lame, but just raw gameplay. This is game of the year for me. This is just so much fun, and I can't stress that enough. So that's my list, but hold on before you yell at me in the comments, even though not many of you do. You guys are all usually pretty cool. Let's get to the honorable mentions. South Park Stick of Truth, really good RPG that just is like a perfectly well-written South Park episode. One of the best South Park episodes in years, actually. Also, Dragon Age Inquisition. It didn't really click with me like everyone else. You know, a lot of the games media think it's like the game of the generation. I wouldn't go that far, but it is really cool, and you got a lot of bang for your buck because it's a huge world with hundreds and hundreds of missions and side quests. It's like overwhelming. I wanted to throw up. Far Cry 4 didn't make the list, even though it's really, really good and it's so much fun to play. You know, it just didn't resonate with me as much. Like when I just sat down to make the game of the year list, it didn't come to mind immediately. So I was like, you gotta go, buddy. But it is really good. It's probably like a number 11 from my top 10. Evil Within was a lot of fun to play. It was kind of just like more gameplay from Resident Evil 4. The story and everything was absolute, I don't care at all. But the settings, the scenery, the situations it puts you in are just so awesome for fans of horror video games and horror movies. And last but not least, Alien Isolation. Alien Isolation I felt a little weird about. I don't like playing it at all. But it is just such an achievement in movie-like atmosphere and just nails the tone of the original Alien film, one of my favorites, that I had to mention it. I had to bring that up. Those are my games. Those are my favorite games of 2014. It's been a long year. I played a lot of games. I didn't get to review them all. My goal in 2015 is to review even more, and I thank you guys so much for watching me and listening to my important opinions that my opinion matters so much. But no, thank you guys so much for hanging out and talking with me about video games and watching my videos. It does really mean a lot. So here's to 2015. Hopefully the games are even better. I know they will be. But most importantly, you guys know the drill. Let me know in the comments what your game of the year list is. If you've played enough games, give me your top 10. Give me your top 5. Give me whatever you want. Let's talk about it. I am ready to chat. Let's talk down there. And also, since it's 2014, it's the end of the year, maybe give me a like. Maybe help me out. That'd be nice. That'd be really cool. But guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm Jake Baldino. You can like me on Facebook. You can watch me on Twitch. You can yell at me on Twitter. And you can subscribe because video games.